Let's get ready to grumble!
I was looking to see all the federal money that went to Elon Musk. And I mean, I'll just read it to you. Forgive me for not being better prepared, but it really doesn't much matter because in the end, the numbers are less than relevant. The most important thing really comes down to, my statement here. Okay. I say private property is violence. Private property is why we have police. Private property is why we have domestic terror. And I said, and there are anti-war people who advocate for domestic war, and it stems from private property, and they ain't your friend. We're not talking about, mom and pop shops. We're not talking about people owning a toilet. We're not talking about people, I'm going to go so far as to say not even necessarily people owning their own home, whatever. I'm talking about massive corporations where an individual like Elon Musk owns the means of production, owns everything, makes decisions, does whatever. And I want you to hear why that matters. Musk rarely admits or mentions that his companies benefit from government help. Tesla and SpaceX receive more than $7 billion in government contracts alone, and billions more in tax breaks, loans, and other subsidies, an analysis by Grid found. That's just Elon Musk. But we worship these people. They're at the Super Bowl enjoying fine caviar and the top-end, top-shelf, best liquor, you name it. Everything's creme de la creme, the perfect, the best. And over again, regular people are left to drown in their own debt, left to drown in their own misery, and kept that way intentionally so that these guys like Elon Musk can have them at a discount while they get tons and tons and tons of free public money. And my take on this is, listen, 9/10 of the reason why the police exist are to prevent you from messing with someone's private property. Because all of this comes back to mine, greed. This is mine. You get off of it. Don't touch me. Don't touch it. It's not yours. It's mine. Okay? And if you think going way back to the days when the Bundy Ranch and all the crap with the libertarians out there in the Midwest, those guys literally had no problem with damming a river. And who cares who's downstream that needs that water? So running through my property, personal private property, not personal property, private property, huge amounts of property owned by individual, literally my property. I'm going to go ahead and divert that water any old way I feel like it. Okay. Now, if somebody needed a drink of water, hypothetically, and they took it from this, and they took it, okay, castle doctrine and all the other things libertarians live for would suddenly come into play because their quote unquote non-aggression pact, the NAP, which is supposed to be their guidepost for everything, okay, the non-aggression principle, whatever you want to call it, they don't have any problem with offing you, with popping you, with shooting you for stepping foot on their private property. So when I said private property is the root of these problems, it's the root of violence, it's the root of why we have a police force, it should not even be controversial. All that should have been happening is like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't mean that I'm advocating to have your toilet taken from you or your personal savings taken from you, etc. I'm literally saying, hey, listen, in a fair and just world, and a world that we're trying to create, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to advocate for a better tomorrow, a world where we're not all suffering, except for a few people that got it going on, okay? And you look and you say to yourself, how the fuck did Elon Musk get $7 billion in government subsidies? Okay, that's his companies, but he benefited from. Dude is not in any way, shape, or form humble about this. He gets all that public money free. Why in the world should people like myself or you suffer without being able to take care of things because we lack public money? Why shouldn't companies that are subsidized by federal dollars in this way, why should they not be nationalized? Why should they not be public? Why should some oligarch own them and be able to dominate and dictate our lives? Part of why I even do a video is because I recognize most people don't think about this stuff. And I want people to think about this stuff. I need people to think about this stuff. Because the monies given to Elon Musk were either taxpayer dollars, which it wasn't, or it's public money. Public money, okay, was the thing that allowed him to become Jesus Christ superstar of the libertarian right. And ultimately, this big cat, one of the big billionaires of the world, he was able to just buy Twitter. Just, yeah, well, what the hell? Yeah, what? Yeah, sure, why not? And then the people that were working there, I think it was almost 50% of them fired, just let go. That's families. That's computer programmers. That's other, engineers and things like that. People, regular people working, collecting a check. They were just fired because Elon Musk decided so. Private ownership gives you special privileges that in a just society would not be left to an individual. They would be democratically decided. They would be talked through. They would be thought about. Maybe all the workers would decide, hey, in order for us all to do well, let's go ahead and take $1 less and we'll make sure everyone's made whole. No, that's not how it works in Elon Musk's world. That's not how it works in this ridiculous libertarian hellscape of free markets and private property and private capital and all this other shit. They get to make all the decisions. And who cares what children are left behind? Who cares who's fucked in the process? The money that the government spent into that could have been given to workers to do things. It could have been given with stipulations that no layoffs occur. It could any number of things. But alas, in the end, we have a tiny group of oligarchs that control the information we consume, control the food we eat, control everything about society, including who we get to see up on the stage, what media comes through, you name it, everything. Hypothetically, I'm sitting there telling you that private property, meaning private means of production, not your comb and your brush and your tractor that you cut your grass or whatever, or your car you're driving, but private property in terms of the means of production. I don't believe it should be. I don't think it should exist. I don't think that should be allowed. Not like that. Not where all these people end up at the edge of a chopping block because somebody's whim or somebody's profit motive decides that they should. And if you understand the police are there to protect those with private property, those with capital, those in the elite place. They're not there to protect the poor because they think the poor, they already know the poor are the ne'er-do-goods that would try to take from these wealthy elite. So the police are there to prevent poor from being able to, take anything whatsoever. And if you believe in private property as a whole, which is the libertarian core construct, okay, then we're fundamentally in a different place. Because ultimately, that domestic violence that occurs in the United States ends up becoming like a domestic war. Look at the police killing unarmed people today. Look at the amount of money we're blowing on police departments to quell people who are being kept down, who are literally struggling, but they're now being policed to stay in line so that these people are fine. They're left okay. No problem. No problem because it's their private property, of course, right? This concept is decidedly not anti-war. It's decidedly not anti-war. And so it's humorous to me when I see people try to lecture me about libertarians being anti-war, see, I was a former libertarian. I'm not a Johnny-come-lately that glides through and doesn't understand but has things to say. I was one. So I understand. In fact, I campaigned for Ron Paul. I was a Paul bot. Okay? And so I know that Ron Paul also is the type of jackass that would take and say, hey, we don't need the federal or FEMA. We don't need FEMA to help clean up after a hurricane because that just adds to deficit spending. Hell, let's make the poor earn their welfare checks, go out there and clean up the dead off the beach. And if they have any complaints, locked and loaded. And that's not a joke. And these are the same people within the country that believe in austerity. And if you believe anything that I've said, you know austerity is murder. So how is that peace? They're murderers. And they sanction murder, and they're for murder. They're for murder. They're okay with it because private property is the top of all things libertarian. And like I said, it's always attractive. The selfishness of libertarianism was something I once was a part of. I left being a Republican, moved to Libertarian, did a pass-by, drive-by with the Democratic Party, and then ended up a MMT-informed leftist. A person without a political home because there's no one that's not pushing the same exact shit. Better bedside manners, not better bedside manners. But the Libertarian Party is the extreme of capitalism. So if you are a socialist or if you are somebody who thinks that capitalism is the problem, libertarians want more capitalism than you could ever create. So when I think about someone like Ron Paul being lauded as an anti-war god, somebody worthy of speaking to subjects like this, I think, God damn, man, how many people are going to die from state-sanctioned murder in the United States because they believe in a heavy police force making sure that anybody that sits there and messes with their private property, they've lost all rights. There's nothing, it's within my right, the castle doctor, I'm in my right to do whatever I want. We don't need no stinking regulations, Mr. Train that blew up. Thank you, Buddha Judge. See, the Libertarian is not a political party, although there is a Libertarian political party. Now, Libertarian is an ideology, and it's expressed throughout the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. In fact, you'll notice that in the South, which wants nothing to do with unions, wants nothing to do with any of this stuff, going way back in history, they have always wanted to maintain the elite. And you could see it on full display in Mississippi. And you could see the cause and effect of deregulation courtesy of Donald Trump and further exacerbated by Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg with the latest train incident. But sure, private property. When you look abroad, let's say you're one of these people that's hyper-focused on geopolitics. Let's say you don't give shit about domestic politics and you're all about geopolitics. Okay? Well, it doesn't take long to realize that the United States does the exact same thing to other countries when they impose sanctions. When they impose sanctions, what are they doing? That's austerity. Domestically, it's cutting off the spigot for federal spending. But around the world, when they impose sanctions, that's austerity. What is sanctions? They're war. And so as a result of that worthless ignorance of the libertarian strain, they commit more violence on the poor than anyone. And again, do not think of libertarianism as a political party, though there is a political party. Think of it as a mindset. You saw Paul Ryan, a famous douchebag of them all, who was an Ayn Rand acolyte through and through. The Pete Peterson Foundation of all is 100% a libertarian shitball think tank. And every one of them from Pelosi on through all worship at the freaking fountain of Pete Peterson Foundation, which is all about fix the debt, the national debt, all the rest of it. These people would commit murder on a domestic level by withholding necessary services. Folks, we are not in the wild, wild west anymore where you can just drive on down the road and put a stake in the ground and say, this looks like a good place for me to build a homestead. Fuck the Indians, I'm just gonna go do my own thing. It isn't like that anymore. They've already killed the Indians, put them on reservations, taken their land, done everything else. No, in the current sense, we can't just do that. So we are living in a structured environment where the state has a monopoly on the currency. And the libertarian mind would like the state to have a monopoly on violence, but with them as agents of the monopoly so that they can exact the violence too if you step foot on their property. And people don't understand that the opposite of what I'm pushing for, which is a robust deficit spending, full employment through job guarantee creation, actual basic needs guaranteed, shelter as a right, healthcare as a right, all stemming from public money, not taxpayer dollars, none of the other bullshit, and definitely publicly owned healthcare. I don't want it in this private sector way where it's for profit. I want a non-profit style medical system that doesn't even let me see a bill. I don't even want to see a bill. I want to be able to take care of whatever is ailing my body and be well and taken care of. But alas, that's not capitalism. That's not libertarianism. That's not what they want. And so for me, when people don't associate domestic austerity and pushing for, reducing the debt and deficit and crap like that because they're ignorant as fuck, okay, about fiat currencies and the way federal finance works. They get into all these, well, why should you tell me what to do? Why should you? And it gets into the stupid shit we went through with masks and all the other crap. Folks, we have a government that does not serve our needs. That does not mean that government cannot serve our needs. It means that the way the system is set up today to favor wealthy landowners, to favor capital, and to literally put a boot on anyone's neck that wasn't born in the money. If you aren't given a gift, the amount of hours you would need to work to earn money to become a billionaire, you don't have in 50 lifetimes. No, you've got to predate on someone else's surplus. You've got to suck away the money that they produced by their labor. And you've got to suck that away through passive income in order to capitalize. So regular people are stuck unless they won the lottery of birth, or unless they've got a benevolent friend that can save them. But that's not a system of government. That's not a set of laws that protect each and every person in the country. That right there is 100% about one individual winning and many, many, many losing. And if some schmuck goes running around yapping about if you say anything about libertarians, you're not a serious person. I say anybody that doesn't know this shit and does not understand finance and does not understand economics, but has things to say about it not being violence is a terribly unserious person, is an incredibly unserious person. Unserious people that don't understand economics, unserious people that think somehow or another that austerity-minded libertarians are somehow or another not warmongers of their own variety. And that this creates the scenario for all other wars. Then they're missing the plot. And we've got to teach better.
and still